Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. This, of course, is our keeping of our new moon, which just happens to fall on a Shabbat this month. And a new moon is a new month. This is the way that Yahweh has given us to keep our calendar system. And it makes perfect sense, of course, when we didn't have phones and everything. We, of course, looked up. We looked up at everything. We looked up at all of the things in the sky. And now we look down. There's situations where people have been walking and fallen into a manhole because they was looking at their phone so much. They didn't see the big hole in the ground that they were walking toward. And it is just the thing of how everything is kind of changed around. You know, when we were young, we used to look up at the sky, even at night, all the time. So it was a lot more that we were able to see and notice. But Yahweh is going to get that attention back, and we're going to start back doing those things, even if we are not now, because we get to basically we're enjoying man's creation so much that we have stopped enjoying Yahweh's creation and just seeing how beautiful it truly is. Within our last Bible study, there was a question about the resurrection. So we're going to basically start off from there and go over a few things about this resurrection. So we're going to begin tonight in Luke chapter 20. And we're going to read verses 27 through 38.
Luke chapter 20 and verse 27. Then came to him certain of the Sadducees, which deny that there is any resurrection. And they asked him, saying, Master, Moshe wrote unto us, if any man's brother die, having a wife, and he die without children, that his brother should take his wife and raise up seed unto his brother.
Even to this day, this is a custom in the continent of Africa. If a woman dies and there was no child, then the brother is to marry that woman and bring forth a child. Today, people will have all kind of negative things to say about that woman, that she running through the family, that she doing all kinds of things. And this is the way the custom is supposed to be. But we have gotten different customs from the daughter of Babylon, and that's going to be the biggest thing that we're going to have issue with, trying to figure out if we're going to follow the customs of Yahweh or whether we're going to follow the customs of the heathen, the ones that we grew up in. And the sad part about it is the customs of the heathen are more familiar to us because we were given those from the beginning. So we've gotten accustomed to those, and we think that those things are normal. And we are constantly shown things on television and on radio to make certain things seem more common. And the more common things sound, or the more common they seem, the easier it is for us to kind of deal with that. But that also causes us to walk against what Yahweh has set up. Go ahead.
Verse 29. There were therefore 7 brethren, and the first took a wife and died without children.
Now, his whole purpose of this is to prove that there's some problem with the resurrection. But in the process, he's going through biblical culture. And Yahshua is proving resurrection even through the biblical culture. Go ahead.
And the second took her to wife, and he died childless. And the third took her, and in like manner the 7 also. And they left no children and died. Last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife of them is she? For 7 had her to wife.
Right. So they're saying, you know, there's a problem with your resurrection, because when this woman is resurrected, she'll be looking at 7 different men as her husband. So this is going to be a problem. Go ahead.
And Yahshua answering said unto them, the children of this world marry and are given in marriage. But they which shall be accounted worthy to obtain that world and the resurrection from the dead, neither marry nor are given in marriage. Neither can they die anymore, for they are equal unto the angels, and are the children of Elohim, being the children of the resurrection. Now that the dead are raised, even Moshe showed at the bush, when he called the Adonai Elohim of Abraham, and the Adonai of Esaac, and the Adonai of Jacob. Elohim, pardon me, of Esaac, and the Elohim of Jacob. For he's not a Elohim of the dead, but of the living, for all live unto him.
Right. So even when we deal with this, verse 36, neither can they die anymore, for they are equal unto the angels. So when you deal with this whole thing of angels, there's a part when it says, and there were giants in the earth in those days. So then you have a lot of people teaching that angels then made it with women during this part in the earth. And Yahshua is giving us a whole different aspect, a whole different doctrine, saying that the angels don't procreate. And it within the resurrection, having that new body, and when we read about that new body, when the Messiah was resurrected, he says, I'm not a spirit. Spirits don't have flesh and bone as you see me as I have. So then we see that body is not going to be subject to the same things that this normal flesh has. So this here deals with several issues, especially with the so-called angels procreating with women. Let's go to Daniel chapter 12. Excuse me.
9:19.
Daniel chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 1 through 4.
And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which stands for the children of your people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation even to that same time. And at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book.
Right. So then what we have to do is order our steps in a way that we don't cause our names to be blotted out of this book of life. Go ahead.
And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt.
So at the end of the day, everybody's going to be resurrected. There is a resurrection for everyone. The question is your resurrection going to be a resurrection of joy, or will it be a resurrection of shame and contempt? That's the only question. And how the strange doctrine of Babylon has us that people automatically die and go to heaven. So they already get their so-called paradise, zip tang immediately as soon as they die. No judgment, no nothing. Matter of fact, you go to the funerals that they give in the places, and they tell you they already in heaven before the funeral. They tell you they looking down on us right now. Funeral ain't even over yet. So understanding and getting that doctrine, then the doctrine of this book starts to wear on you, because you're going to have to figure out which one of those you're going to deal with. And the problem is the lie sounds better. That you just die and automatically you go to heaven. You don't have to give an account for any of your deeds. You're already there before the funeral is over. But then this book says something altogether different. It says, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever.
Right. So this needs to be our focus, and them that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. If you just agree with everything somebody does and tell them that they're going to be all right no matter what, you haven't turned them to righteousness. See, there's a reason why there's a prize for those that turn people to righteousness. To turn people to righteousness, sometimes you got to fight with them. Because you're trying to tell them to do good, and they're like, no, but bad feel good. And you got to sit there and wrestle with them to get them off bad. Go ahead.
But you, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased.
Knowledge shall be increased. Now let's go to John chapter 11. John chapter 11. And we're going to read verses 14 through 27.
Verse 14. Then said Yahshua unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go on to him.
Right. So just even dealing with that in itself, that certain situations, although they may not be positive situations for the moment, these situations give the opportunity for Yahweh and Yahshua to do some very, very glorious things. And he says, I'm glad that I was not there for your sakes, not for mine, because I don't need anything to believe. I'm glad that I wasn't there so that you might see what's about to happen and learn to believe. Go ahead.
Then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him. Then when Yahshua came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already. Now Bethany was near unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off. And many of the Yehudis came to Martha and Miriam to comfort them concerning their brother. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Yahshua was coming, went and met him. But Miriam sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Yahshua, Adonai, if you had been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, whatsoever you will ask of Elohim, Elohim will give it you. Yahshua says unto her, Your brother shall rise again.
Right. Now we have to pay attention to what she says. Your brother shall rise again. Go ahead.
Martha says unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day.
Right. So she already believed in the resurrection at the last day. Yet, now this is New Testament, and people are telling us that their loved ones are in heaven as soon as they die. She didn't believe that. Where did that doctrine come from? Because that wasn't the doctrine that they knew. She says, oh, I know he's going to rise again at the last day in the resurrection. I mean, he ain't, looking down on us now. So where'd that come from? Because that's not their doctrine. Go ahead.
Yahshua said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live.
So if you just sit on that for a second. I am the resurrection and the life, and he that believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. So then you have to consider the meaning of what that baptism is, to be baptized unto his death. And then when you have people teaching different doctrines or purposely doing the baptisms wrong, consider what that does when you consider that Yahshua is the resurrection, and you either have been taught not to deal with baptism or have been given a different understanding of how the baptism should be done. Go ahead.
And whosoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Believe you this?
Right. And we have to understand the definition, the meaning of believe. People who believe do more than run their mouth. See, those that believe in taking care of their family, they go to work. Then there's those that be talking. They be talking. They be talking about taking care of their family. But they don't be working. But they be talking though. But they don't be working. Those that believe do something that matches their belief. Go ahead.
She says unto him, Yes, Adonai, I believe that you are the anointed one, the son of Elohim, which should come into the world.
All right, let's go to Revelation chapter 20. See, it says those that believe and is baptized. So then automatically their belief was connected to an action that they went and got themselves baptized in water to show their belief in Yahshua the Mashiach. But then you have people teaching doctrines that say you're just baptized by the word. You don't do anything. Then you got those that command baptism, and the person performing the baptism ain't even in the water with them. They doing remote baptisms. That's some strange stuff. But when we have been given a different view, you have to understand nobody knows this word here on earth like the adversary, the devil, does. That none of us, I don't care how much you read, how much you study, how many videos you go and watch, you ain't never gonna outsmart him. He was there. You don't outsmart somebody who was there. There ain't nothing you gonna find out that's gonna trip him up. But he already waiting for you. He got all kind of stuff that he can trip us up with. And all you got to do is have the wrong thing in your heart. And he going to sit that little branch right before you to trip you up. He know exactly what to lead you to trip you up. Because he know the whole story. That's why he's focusing his energy on trying to take out Israel. Why try to take out the whole world? No. You don't need to kill everybody. All he needs to do is to take out Israel. That's it. Revelation chapter 20, and let's start that at verse 1.
And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years.
And this is what a sabbatical kingdom is. This is going to be true rest, because the adversary will not be able to bother us during that time. So then you're talking about a true rest when Yahshua says they will not enter into my rest. So all of the part of the deception of Satan, that won't be there. So if anybody say, they sinned and the devil made me do it. No, he didn't. There you go right now. He didn't make you do nothing. If you sin, you did it because that's what you wanted to do. And at that time, man is going to see how strong self-will is. Because it ain't going to be nobody else left to blame it on. And self-will is a very strong thing. Go ahead.
And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little season. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahshua, and for the word of Elohim, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads, or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with the Mashiach 1,000 years.
All right, these are people who have actually suffered for the sake of the word. And we have to ask ourselves, at the end of the day, how much do we sacrifice for the word? when you talk about what Yeshua had to sacrifice and how we are baptized into his death, what have we sacrificed for the sake of the word? Go ahead.
But the rest of the dead live not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection.
So the first resurrection is what we want to be a part of. There are some that will live through that, being that if those things take place while we're alive, then there are those that will be resurrected into that first resurrection. And then those, of course, that are resurrected, they're going to have different bodies. So when you talk about looking at these movies, half of the things that they get out of this book, where they have immortals living side by side. What do you think they get that from? They get it out of your book. So the people who are resurrected, they will then have this new body. These will be the immortals walking amongst the mortals. But of course, when they show us immortals, they are wicked. Because they didn't realize that, nobody has the power to kill them. And then they do some really wicked things. But in this book, the immortals are the righteous. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Blessed and holy is he that has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power. But they shall be priests of Elohim and of the Mashiach, and shall reign with him 1,000 years.
And when we're talking about us having learned this word, having gone through all of these things, it will really be a shame unto us to not make that first resurrection. Go ahead.
And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison.
So now the Sabbath is over. See, the rest is over now. Because Luau. See? Once your enemy get parole, ain't no more. You got to give back up now. The spiritual Sabbath will be over. Go ahead.
And shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea.
So when you're talking about as soon as he gets his parole, he goes out for deception immediately. He does what he does. As soon as he gets an opportunity, he's deceiving the nations. Why? He's deceiving the nations to come up and fight Israel. The whole thing is about destroying Israel. Where people have told us, well, he has moved on from that. God is about everybody. Let me tell you something. If Yahweh has moved on and none of that matters, you have to then ask yourself, why does the adversary still point all his attention at dealing with Israel? His whole thing is, I want to destroy the woman that brought forth the man-child. So the nation that brought forth the Messiah, he wants to kill them off. And you have to ask yourself, why is his attention so focused on killing Israel? And that's the only purpose of going out to deceive these nations. This is what he's going to deceive them to do. Go ahead.
And they went upon the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. And fire came down from Elohim out of heaven, and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Elohim, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life.
Right. Every last one of y'all got a book. What goes in that book is determined by you. And the books were open. There's the book of life, which is our instructions. You got the book of life in your hand. These are your instructions. Now you got to see what's in your book. Now what's in your book and what's in the book of life, let's see if these things coincide with one another. And as we start going by what your deeds are and what the instructions are, let's see if your name continually stays in that book. Go ahead.
And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books.
Right. Remember, it says a man is going to have to give an account for every idle word. And, you have to consider just how technology has improved. You have to think about how our forefathers would just be like, there's no way that some of this stuff is possible. But consider, y'all text a mile a minute. You know that like no text has ever been deleted ever. I know you think you deleted it from your phone, but it like never goes anywhere. Like 100 years from now, they will be able to read your text and tell you how you felt 57 years ago, 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. And some of us have to broadcast everything we're doing. I'm eating now. Oh man, my stomach hurt. Oh, I must have ate too much. Right. And we can't figure out how we're going to have to give an account for everything. We record our own stuff. So if it's that easy for us to do it, think about how easy it is for the angel to record every thought, every movement. All of this stuff is already documented. We go, I was listening to a news story where it was talking about they have these cameras in Atlanta, or no, sound equipment that they claim they are listening for the sound of gunshots. And if they hear the gunshots, they will go to that particular area. But of course, they're listening to conversations as well. So they hear the gunshots and they dispatch the police to those areas. So they are sound monitoring all over. Now understand, by the time they release this, they've been doing it. So they well into it by the time they decide to tell us about it. So how many people have been talking personal business? I mean, their codes to, their banking, all of these things, because you don't think anybody's listening. Because you didn't see nobody. Why would you think somebody's listening? All of this stuff is being recorded. So if man can do this, consider how long the angels of Yahweh have had the ability to do those things. Go ahead.
Even in this verse here where it says the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, we got to look at the grace that was given when he shortened man's lifespan. Because them folks who live 900 years, they got books.
Oh, yeah. But, that's one of those things that we would never look at death as a blessing or even grace. But what we have to consider is sometimes that is the grace that Yahweh would have to give somebody to say, okay, if they keep living, they're going to have so much to deal with that they ain't going to make it. So the grace that I have to give them right now is to take them away from here. And you don't want to put yourself ever in a situation where, your best chance at salvation is to pass away now. You don't ever want to be in that situation. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged every man according to their works.
Right. And you have to consider that some people, when you look at this, the sea gave up the dead which were in it. Now, some people actually died at sea, but then you have to consider that most of those people were actually buried at sea because of dealing with the things of Babylon. It was a big Roman custom to put the body on a raft and then set the body on fire and push it out into the ocean. And then our people start picking it up. So then we said, well, I'm going to get cremated and then spread my ashes all along the sea. And Yahweh says he's going to go and pick up every last one of them, every last bit so that they can stand for judgment. Now consider the thought process of the people who believe that they were going to heaven. And Yahweh done went and picked up every bit of ash out of every body of water all around the earth. And now they standing up looking at this big white throne judgment. This ain't heaven, is it? This don't look like heaven. No, bro. Right. Imagine the disappointment. Go ahead.
And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire.
Right. So then we have a situation. Whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into this lake of fire. Now that lake of fire was not in that first resurrection. So there is a possibility that even after this, that some of those people may still make it through. But we have to ask ourselves, if we have studied and walked in this word, why would we miss that first resurrection with the Mashiach? And that's a very powerful question. Keep reading 21, and let's read verses 1 through 8.
And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth was passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, Yohanan, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from Elohim out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of Elohim is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Elohim himself shall be with them, and be their Elohim.
Right. So look at how far we had to come to get to be back with him. In the beginning, this sun and moon was not given until this fourth day. He says, let there be light on the first day. And he was that light. When you start reading these things, there's no more need for the sun and the moon, because now we're back in the presence of him, the one that actually brings forth the light. When you deal with the children of Israel coming out of Egypt, we were amongst this tabernacle. We were amongst this place. Yahweh then had to tell them, look, move the tabernacle, because they being amongst this tabernacle, I'm gonna have to kill them if they're too close to it. So separate it, move it out. Then when they want to deal with me, have them come to the tabernacle. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And Elohim shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, Write, for these words are true and faithful. And he said unto me, It is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I'll give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of water of life freely. He that overcomes shall inherit all things, and I'll be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.
So the second death is where this punishment is, and you see all liars. And we put ourselves in situations that we encroach upon that second death. And we don't really understand just how powerful those things are. But let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to our Revelations 22, and we're going to read verses 11 through 17.
Verse 11. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still.
Right. Even after all of these things, man is still going to do what he want to do. You can go through all of the things to try and talk to people about righteousness, to talk to them about the right path to walk. But at the end of the day, man is going to make a decision what he's going to do and what he's going to deal with. And there ain't nothing anybody's going to be able to do about it. Even after seeing all of these great things, I mean, consider the people who were able to see the great works of Yahshua, to see somebody brought back from the dead. Consider the folks who was there during the time of Moshe, that saw this man come off from this mountain, glowing so much that he had to put a covering over his face. How do you still go and start problems with that man? How do you start a fight with the glowing dude? After Yahshua brings somebody back from the dead, how do you try him after that? But look at the carnality of man. We'll do all of that and then let some person who say they talked to God last night, we'll let them tell us anything. But then we try the truth and then let a liar do any and everything. Go ahead.
And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still.
Mm-hmm.
And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according as his work shall be.
Right. You shall reap whatever you have sown. Whatever you have planted in the earth, that's what you're going to grow. So if you planted turnips, don't sit there expecting peaches. That's not what you're going to get. That ain't what you planted. So whatever that is that you put off in the earth, that's what you're going to get out of it eventually. And there's always a space in between what you plant and what you grow. So what our problem is by the time we get fruit, we have forgotten what we planted. So in our mind, we're expecting peaches and plums, and we done forgot that's not what you planted. That's not what you put in the earth. And the earth don't really care whether or not you remember what you planted. See, you can get old and senile and don't remember nothing. That don't change nothing. That don't change what you planted. So sometimes you look at situations that people encounter and you say, man, that is so unfair that that individual has to go through that. Stop. You don't know what they planted. You may not have been around when they planted. And some of the best things that can possibly happen is that you can go ahead and get some of that negative stuff that you planted, so it ain't sitting there waiting for you on the other side. So some of those things that we look at as bad, no. You want to go ahead and get that bad now. You want to get that over with. Because I don't need that on my account when Yahshua get here. Well, you know what, Esaac? We got 2 more pages worth of bad stuff that you didn't deal with. Oh, that's a problem. Well, send me back. I need to deal with this. I don't want nothing left on my account. I want to be able to look him eye to eye. I took care of all my negative business. And if you think you ain't got no negative business, you have severely tricked yourself. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 13, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates into the city.
Right, and we see why the adversary, the devil, taunted man with the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because it is this tree of life that allows you to live forever. He never once taunted us with that one. So this is how you learn that the adversary is very wise to the scriptures of what things to do. So here it is, even to this day, we're being destroyed with knowledge. You find somebody, go somewhere, hit a wrong thing, and before you know it, they off howling at the moon. How you get over there? Knowledge. Wrong kind of knowledge from the wrong individual. Same thing happened in the beginning. Wrong individual comes and gives them knowledge. And it basically destroys their house. Go ahead.
For outside are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters, and whosoever loves and makes a lie. I, Yahshua, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star.
I am the root and offspring of David and the bright and morning star. For it was the seed of David that was used to bring forth the body of Yahshua. Go ahead.
And the Spirit and the bride say, Come. And let them that hear say, Come. And let him that is athirst come. And whosoever will, let him take the water of life freely.
Right. If we're going to deal with the things that we're supposed to deal with, then we're going to allow those things to change our lives, allow them to redirect our thought process. And there's a fight every day. Every day you turn on the radio, every day you turn on the television, there's a fight against your culture. There's a fight against what thus says Yahweh. And the more we get entangled in the things of the world, each and every bit of it is used to pull you out of your culture. And if you don't recognize you're at war, how could you ever fight back? You have to recognize that each one of those things is trying to change your thought process. And there are certain things that you can look at and deal with if you understand they're trying to change my thought process. Lucifer slick. I see what he's doing. He trying, but if you don't understand that, by the time you figure it out, he done pulled you way outside your culture. And you doing all kind of things outside your culture, thinking one thing because you didn't know you was at war. Ain't nothing worse than being the last one to find out that you at war. See, if you ain't never got jumped on before, you don't understand. See, I done got jumped on before, you know what I'm saying, back in the day. And let me tell you something. When it all play back in your head, you know, after you get beat up, you remember every step of the deception. It goes back in your mind when the one moved over here by the door, when the one moved over here. All of that plays back. See, you need to get beat up a time or two. I'm telling you, it's going to help your thought process. That's why some of y'all don't think right, because you ain't got beat up yet. When you get beat up and you play back in your mind every move, trust me, every part of it is going to come back in your mind. But guess what's going to happen after that? You're going to walk into a room and you're going to be able to see it. Nobody want to get beat up. But I tell you what, the power that come after that, you'll notice when deception is moving. Hey man, why they put that thing right there? Hey, why they doing that? Hey, why? You'll understand it later. Now, the next time you get jumped on and you don't have a clue, you need to go check yourself. You need to figure out why this happened to you again and you still didn't figure out. So keep in mind, Yahweh has to train us for some things that are going to happen unto us. Don't take your training as a fall in your salvation, that you're not going to attain unto your salvation. But you have to learn from your training. If you keep suffering the same things over and over, you're not learning from your training. That means you're stuck in Tribulation 101. The rest of us, we taking tribulation calculus, and you still trying to learn how to break the crack on the line. Come on, man. Come on, man. You still right here? You got to get past this. Let's move on. There's another trial. Because we got to get better at this. You can't keep breaking the crack on the line for 10 years and think that Yahweh is going to be happy with you. We got to move on. We got to move up. There's a worthy adversary that is planning to go to war with you. That's all that we're going to do for tonight. Enjoy your new moon and your Sabbath. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.